What's up guys, David here and welcome to the Fit Pro Daily. Last week was a week off. I was over in Ibiza at a wedding, so we decided not to do anything. But this week we are back at it. This week we've got James Cotton and Carl Smith coming on to share their experience in setting up one of the biggest UK gym franchises and sharing their insights into the type of things that we can do if we were looking to franchise our own fitness business, or if you're just getting started in the fitness industry and how to potentially buy into a franchise. But before I do dive into today's guest interview, if you haven't already joined us inside our free Facebook group, head over to Facebook, search for FitPro, Lead Gen with Dave, request to join and get access to even more guides, insights, tips, guest interviews, and so much more. Anyway, let's dive into this week's guest interview. Good afternoon, guys, and welcome to today's guest interview. Today is not just one guest, we've got two guests on this week. So, James, Carl, welcome to our first ever multi-guest interview. Is that the right word? Something along those lines. It's nice and roasting here in Wales. Unfortunately, the doors closed, the windows are closed, and it's sweating in here. What is it like where you are right now?
Yeah, it's I'm just outside of London, and it's pretty warm actually, to be honest. So, I'm in a locked room like yourself, so yeah, it's very warm. But Carl, where you're based in the North England, aren't you?
Mate, it's exactly the same. I got off a spin bike about 20 minutes ago, and that was the wrong thing to do. And now dripping in this small closed off room. So if I pass out, that's why.
No, that's good. Okay, so usually on the podcast, we're talking about lead generation, sales, keeping clients, finding clients, anything to do with growing our business. But something we've never looked at before is what happens when you've got to a point where you can move forward, taking on more venues, franchising, which we're going to talk about today, how to really scale and move to that next level. So I think we'll probably get a lot of questions, or I'm just going to ask lots of questions for my own fitness business, DK9. So how can we move forward and stuff? So first of all, what does franchising even actually mean?
Yeah, good question. So, look, franchise, in its raw form, is copying your concept, selling the rights to your business, and then replicating it in another territory or location, on the same premise as you ran your original business. The original business normally would be classed as a pilot, so technically you've learned all the ups and downs, what you expect, what works, what doesn't work, and what you're trying to do is pass that knowledge on with a clear, concise plan to a potential client or franchisee that can replicate your business. Obviously, the benefit to you would be your financial rewards. So, financially, normally a franchisee-franchisor relationship, and there is two differences. The franchisor would be you, franchisee, the person that buys the license, would be the royalties. And now there's various different models out there. So everything from based models where franchisor may take a percentage turnover of their business, and include other things such as national marketing or local marketing or even technology developments. Then so that can be done by turnover or a fixed flat fee that's paid back to the franchisor. So in principle, that's what franchising is.
Nice. So there's loads of different options, because I usually thought somebody like buys the naming rights and you take a percentage of the profits. And that's kind of basically what you're saying it really is then, yeah?
It is, yeah. In summary, yes, it is.
So why would I want to give my business to somebody else? Aren't they just going to make a mess of it and like almost ruin my name?
So look, before you decide on any partner you're going to work with, you build a profile. You do based on what you believe is the right characteristics. One profile type would be entrepreneurial drive, David. So you would had entrepreneurial draw your business up and do things in a certain way in the beginning, and you'd be looking for a similar characteristic. Also, for example, operational discipline. You know, you need to have a certain amount of discipline to be able to make your business work, to follow your processes, the systems that you've been using. And it's the same relates to franchising. So it's not no not we normally talk about granting franchises rather than or awarding them. So we award them based on the right type of profile that matches your business. You're right. If, for example, that's unchecked and you sold a franchise to somebody who might not fit that profile, what you're going to find is, yeah, that it could go against you. It could be a disadvantage for you franchising your business. But look, there's loads of pros. Look, there is cons. I'm not going to lie. In relation to franchising, the good elements are is it's a proven system that they're more likely going to follow. It is.
Yeah. So that's
You,
quite interesting. It's just like if you're employing somebody at your gym or your studio, your boot camp, whatever, you're surveying them, you're getting them to ask questions, you're interviewing them to make sure they are the right person to sell the name of your business to them.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So you're looking for you, aren't you? In theory, you're looking for you with maybe with their own twist of experience.
Hmm.
And in a franchise network, in my view, works really well because you get all these great, wonderful people, great personalities, great experience, and what you find is the brand starts to evolve. It does, and it evolves in relation to bringing all these skills together. Very much like myself and Carl. When we work together and you work in a group of people, you start learning off each other. And franchising is like that. The good thing about it is you own your own business. In franchising, the franchisor doesn't. You still own your own business. You just have a license to the franchisor, but you've got all that lovely support,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
networking that can help you make some really good decisions.
So I'm guessing, is there a set amount of stuff you have to give them, or can you differ for each person? Let's say if DK9 Fitness, for example, I give them the operations manual, how-tos, the price, the website, and all this stuff, or can you literally just give somebody your name and a bit of guidance, and they just follow on from there?
You really want to give them a package. You do, and the packages may depend on their level. But for consistency purposes, let's just take a couple of examples, right? So from a fitness perspective, Anytime Fitness, the reason it's worked is because it's the same kind of package. It is. It's the same package. You get the same for each one. It's 24-hour fitness, um, gym environment laid out a certain way, and every single one's the same. Franchising works where you're gonna get that ideal opportunity to replicate. You spoke about a license model almost. So a license model is slightly different, and that would you be
Mm.
just licensing your brand name, but they have flexibility to do what they want. I would always be of the side of you want to pass on some really great experience, ops manual, your experiences, your marketing, what's worked, what hasn't worked, the interactions that you've had, the sales process, or the marketing elements. If you build that all in a bit of a framework and you kind of work with your franchisees over a period of time, the likelihood of them being successful is much higher. The failure rate where in franchising compared to working on your own is vastly different. Franchising is much lower than most startup businesses.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. So the big question I'm guessing a lot of people are going to be thinking of is how much are you selling the franchises for? How much percentage are you asking for from them each month? Is there a certain way of calculating this, or
Yeah,
do you kind of just pull a number out the air and say this is how much?
yeah, no, that's good question. So, in relation to modeling, what we would do was model a franchise based on the pilot. So the pilot would have done some final. Now we would look at what's realistic in relation to what would be realistic in relation to profits, and what kind of support structure you want to put in place.
Hmm.
Is it going to be a support structure where you're going to be talking to them online, virtually, week in, week out? You're going to be doing visits. So you need to kind of factor that into your costs to the overall business model you do. And then you need to work out what's the true value of your service. Plus, all the additional support that you're going to kind of give them. So you model it on that basis. Just to give you an idea, turnover models ballpark, probably in the franchise industry, and normally around about 8% of turnover. Like a national marketing, where you'd commit to as a franchisee, maybe about 2%. That's not unusual. But from a flat fee perspective, that really can vary. So a flat fee can be anything from £500 a month, to a couple of £1,000 a month, depending on the type of business and model that you do. With a concept that we look after in support and Rise, we go for a flat fee because what we believe is our trainers will know what they're paying, know what they're getting, and get a decent package with that. And Carl, you probably can touch on that a little bit in relation to what kind of support that you provide.
Yeah, I mean, really good questions, David. Alongside, when you think about pricing a franchise, and certainly the Rise franchise that we're involved in, it's about sort of market elasticity, but it's also about making sure that it fits right with whatever else is out there in terms of competition. So I see that our product currently competes effectively with a big box gym, effectively charging a rent for space. So we're looking for personal trainers who want to take up a franchise, who want all the relevant support, want a ready-made business effectively in a box, and that has to sit around about the same kind of level as it would if you were paying a rent in a commercial big box gym. So hence that's kind of how we landed on our sort of pricing, if that makes any sense.
So there's a lot of factors to cover, and like you say, how much effort you want to put in. And I guess it comes down to the more effort you put in, the more you can potentially charge, but the more successful they're going to be, and vice versa. So it just keeps growing. But let's say I take Carl on. Carl wants to purchase part of DK9 Fitness, so we franchise him up, and Carl's going great. Then all of a sudden, for no reason at all, Carl goes a little bit off the scene, or changes a few things, or goes against what we were. Am I stuck? Can I remove him from the franchise, or is that it? Am I there's nothing I can do?
Yeah, that's
a really good question. Go on, James.
That is a good question. So look, when you agree to a franchise, there is obligations. There is in any franchise agreement, irrespective of what brand. There'll be obligations that you would agree to. So those obligations would be maybe the term, first of all. So the term could be 3, could be 5, could be 10 years. Now, with that term, you've agreed as the franchisor to provide X, Y service. So in relation to support and growing their business. In relation to the franchisee, you've agreed, and your obligations is that you're going to do X, Y job to be able to generate the income, to be able to support yourself in the job, and also develop your business, and also pay royalties back to the franchise. Now, if you think about it, it's an investment, the franchises. So it's an investment that's got a value. So if you started building a business and after a couple of years you felt, okay, I want to change my career, I want to change what I'm doing, you built up an asset value. So what you can do is sell that business for a profit. So you might be able to sell that business with the territory, and obviously the business that the revenue you start generating, and you can sell it as a going concern for business to sell. You could. So there's no hard and fast rule. Reality is obligations that everybody would agree to before entering into any kind of agreement. And the franchisee is financially in a very strong position because they've probably built a business that they can sell, and they can get the financial rewards from selling that business maybe in 2 to 3 years' time if they wanted to, or they can see the following term. Normally, there's renewals as well that are included. So renewal would maybe be another 5 years or another couple of years based on the growth of the business and how successful they've been. Even a business, if it wasn't as successful as you like it to be, well, in that situation, it's still an asset, and you still can do that as well. You will have people that will still buy those, who want that opportunity to maybe start at a lower level to grow it themselves. So there's a real opportunity there.
It's quite interesting that I hadn't thought that they purchase it for, like, say, 3 years or 5 years, and then you renew. I was kind of just in my mind they would buy it, and that is kind of like theirs. So let's go super technical now. So we lose somebody along the way just for this next question. I'm really sorry. Maybe rewind and watch it a few times. So me and Carl, we've had a good relationship. He wants to buy the DK9 franchise. He purchases it. He's got a 5-year term or something. He fails or wants to leave halfway through, but he owns the unit, so he's renting the unit. Like, who would own or rent the unit that he's training from?
Sure, yeah, that's good. So in relation to the bricks and mortar, let's call it that, that would always sit with a franchisee. So the franchisee would take what we call the lease, and the lease would be the property owner, and that's normally would sit inside part and parcel with the franchise agreement. So if the franchise agreement is 5 years, the likelihood is if you want to do the lease for 5 years, you would do. So it would sit in line. Or we can do a longer lease if you wanted to. It's not unusual in the fitness industry to lease terms to see 10 to 15 years. That gives you the option to sell the business if you wanted to, as well as a valuable offering, because the incoming franchisee has got surety in relation to 5, 10 or longer years left on that lease. So typically the business, how it's set up, would be maybe a limited company or a sole trader, depending on the kind of amount of value they're looking to put through that business. That's kind of normal. If, for example, it wasn't as going as well as they would like, well, that's fine. What normally would happen, it's all about how you communicate with each other and how you'd communicate with a franchisee to franchise for. The worst thing you could do is be an ostrich and stick your head in the ground. It's actually the reason you buy into a franchise is because you're looking for that support. And support works both ways. Support works inwards. So how do you exit from a franchise is as important as working in a franchise. So you'll find that most franchisors are very, very flexible in relation to the approach and common sense approach. And they'll work with you because they want the best result for their business, and that's very, very important.
Okay, so I've done the numbers. My spreadsheet's telling me that if I take a franchisee on, I can make half the amount of money I could make if I just did it all myself and had a manager run this business for me. Why should I be going down the franchise route when I can just get staff in and just manage the staff instead?
Yeah, so I guess it's all, David. It is. So how are you going to measure your own risk versus reward? Now, first of all, working on your own in an environment where it's very competitive can be hard work. It is. Having a support network there is what you're buying into. It is. Plus, there will be developments to help your business grow. For example, marketing packs that maybe beat the budget. For example, beat that budget club, and why your business is going to perform well, maybe in a competitive area. There's also other things as well. It's also strength of brand. That if you think about it, if you're selling multiple franchise territories, you're suddenly going to get strength of brand, and especially if you're growing close to each other, brand recognition really helps. And what you find is take up. I've seen that a few times in towns where I've opened 2 to 3 the same brand. And what you see is you see a penetration rate that maybe would increase beyond 6, even up to 10% based on multiple types of brand in that area. So you do get residual benefits, but there is other elements. There's the assistance, there's campaigns, there's working with maybe resources that you're marketing expert, for example. Are you going to hire one to have in your probably cost that you can't afford? Or you can have somebody that work on online PPC. Again, it's a cost that you probably can't afford. It's a time versus reward. You need other people to help you. If you've got access to people that are going to be cheaper than hiring somebody full time, you'll find that you almost have a backup office support with a franchise offering. But don't get me wrong, I do think individuals should try their own business as well. It shouldn't always be about franchising, of course. So you need to weigh up the risk versus reward. Look, and part of it's got to be relationship, isn't it? You've got to feel that you've able to work with the franchisors. So, like Self and Carl, working with each other, you've got to feel that relationship's going to be there long term. It's almost a marriage, isn't it? If you think about it. It is. So it's a marriage.
Yeah. And that's interesting what you're saying then. So you're saying franchises actually grow a little bit quicker than one person taking on multiple venues by himself and like hiring managers and stuff.
Yeah, the scalability there is, because if you're a franchisor, getting the capital expenditure to go again and again yourself may take a bit of time, and you may take some risk to lend that money. If Cole, for example, is putting his money in, and then you're putting your money in, then another person, all that private equity money, private financing that you can grow and grow again, and that's how you can get multiples open. We can. Myself and Cole obviously experienced that between us, haven't we, Cole, of scaling businesses over the years?
Absolutely. I mean, mine was more so with an employed business. Less grew from 3 clubs to 52, and whilst I was there throughout the sort of 9 years, I was with the company where James obviously got direct experience of a franchise model growing twice as fast, I suppose, in possibly almost at the same kind of time, which is a testament to what James was saying. It's interesting, actually, some of the questions that you're asking, David, because obviously they're from your perspective, thinking about your business and scaling up. There's a rationale as well from a trainer, for example, that comes out of their qualification, as we both know, and in this industry typically lasts on average 6 months sometimes, because there's a general lack of support outside of your qualification. So a franchise model potentially is another solution to that. Obviously there's the likes of you and me that offer business support and business coaching, but if that was all in a box and it was a model that was already tried and tested and ready to go, then potentially it's another solution.
Cool.
It's probably a misconception. It's probably a misconception that you're not your own boss. You absolutely are your own boss when you take a franchise. You absolutely are. All you're doing is shortcutting the first couple of years to get into business very quickly with the experience that people have already gone through. You could be turning a profit in a couple of months in relation to your initial investment, and that's not unusual to see that. Depending on how much you want to be, return on investment may take slightly longer, may take 18 months or even up to 3 years, depending on the type of business you're going for. But you are completely your own boss, and it's support functions that you've got around you.
And that was something I want to get to in a minute. I've got one more question, or one way to look at it before we look at the people who don't have their fitness business set up yet. And that is, so we've looked at franchising. It's quicker than doing it all yourself and getting staff in. But what about instead of them having to pay 20,000 for the name and 20% of the profits every year, whatever the terms would be, if I took Carl on as a manager and said, Carl, you get 10% of the profits every year, would that type of model be equal to a franchise, or is there still bits missing there because they're then incentivized by the profits? Yeah,
it's probably a different model. It would be, that's probably just a profit share model. It would be, and if you own your own business and you've got staff that are very valuable to you, then 100%. Why shouldn't there be a profit share model for them? Then that might give you the ability to scale. The likelihood of raising capital to be able to grow is normally quite hard. With the franchise model, all the banks are fair. There's good 4 or 5 banks that are very franchise friendly. Give you an example, they would normally lend 50-50. So, for example, if you had a liquid capital available, a certain amount, the bank would lend you 50% with a good business plan, and you're working with a franchise to be able to get yourself into business. Then there is third-party funders as well that can actually fund. So there's normally a blend of 3 ways to finance maybe a fitness provision or getting into business. You maybe only need one, but there is ways and means to actually finance what you're hoping to do.
Yeah, because I'm guessing that financing is a bit tricky because they're obviously paying for the package from you, but then you're obviously having to supply the equipment and the location and all that stuff as well. So there's coming in from both angles. So the final question I have for us as studio owners, as business owners already who are doing well, if I was now thinking, you know what, I'm jump off this call, I want a franchise Decanine Fitness today, how long does it take to get to build a franchise package, to
Yeah,
get the document signed and everything like that?
sure. That's a good question. So it normally would take, if you follow a project plan approach to franchising your business, about 16 to 20 weeks it would do. And there's a website you can go to, which is franchisemybusiness.co.uk.
See
And
everyone typing now quickly.
yeah, so that is a business that I'm involved in. Cole as well is working with us in relation to one of the businesses there, with Ride, and uh, there is a approach that we take, and that is normally 16 to 20 week approach. Um, to franchise, and exactly what a lot of different organisations have been through with franchising their concept. Now, 16 to 20 weeks isn't a quick win. That's just what we call foundations. It is. It's just the start. You really need to start putting infrastructure in place, and that's building the correct types of manuals. Have your franchise agreement go for a legal representative, as well as building systems and processes and using software. We use software with Rise Fitness. And what we do is provide a getting into business approach, and that getting into business approach is app-based that you can use on your phone. So from day one, if you become a franchisee, you know what you're going to do in day 60, because it'll take you through the approach of what you need to do in your territory, in your area. And then you've got great add-ons as well. So, Cole, give me a couple of examples in the getting into business process for Rise. What do we do? And training's included as well. What do we have?
Well, yeah, I mean, look, it depends where your skill set lies, I suppose. But the whole purpose of our training package is that it covers you from end to end. So the sales process is going to be something that we spend a lot of time with. The product is key, and I won't go into too much detail on today's call, but the systems that we use and how we use those systems to get the best out of our franchisees and the members that take part in the product. So effectively, it's a full end-to-end service that you wouldn't get, or if you did try this on your own, it might take you 5-10 years to land on all those different systems, how they're all going to work, how they integrate into how you want them to work, etc. So yeah, I don't want to sound like a salesman, but I think there's absolute benefits of considering a franchise model when you're fresh out of the course, so to speak.
So let's look at going to someone like you guys who can help build that franchise model. And me, I don't want to pay anybody. I want to do it myself. You're saying about 16 to 20 weeks is a good time scale to work with somebody else. If I was potentially going to try and do it myself, what am I looking at? 6 months to a year to try and map it all out and build it? Or does it really take that length of time?
Yeah, no, honestly, if you were going to do it yourself, of course you can learn it, and there's British Franchise Association that you can go to. There is other governing bodies as well out there. Reality is, if you're going to do it yourself, it could take you a couple of years or longer to get the grasps of the experience. Myself and Carla, it's taken me 15 years to know what I know in relation to how to franchise and learn the ins and outs of currently the position that I do now. And it's that what you're buying into, because if somebody's been through that kind of experience, it's so vital to any success that you've had. It is, and everybody wants a quick win, but in reality, you have to kind of earn it. And 100% agree, people trying it themselves. I'm not saying they should go with a company. You know, it's all about what you're willing to do. There's plenty of free webinars out there. They are with the British Franchise Association that you can attend. Now they'll give you advice, what the do's and what considerations they are. Lots of different consultants as well out there, like us. But it's all little things that you need to think about. How would you manage a franchisee? What would, in this instance, how do you recruit a franchisee? You know, and that's a consideration. You know, what do you do? What platforms do you go to? What the sales process should be? What kind of legal documentation do you need to use in the sales process? We need something called a franchise disclosure document, where we disclose. It's normally 25 to 30 to 40 pages long, and it's, if you want to buy that disclosure off the shelf, it's going to be kind of the ins and outs of your business and why I should buy into it, including what the profit's been over the last 3 years, or what the modelling would look like. You know, what's worked really well, who's involved, what's that structure of business look like, what kind of support you have, what suppliers you use. You know, it's everything you need to know. And normally, before you get that information, it's not unusual in the franchise industry that you have to sign an NDA, so that's a non-disclosure once you're provided that you can't disclose to anybody, and that's, again, it's a legal mechanism. We talk about intent quite a lot. We do. So it's great inquiring, and I think people should inquire to get information. It's all about intent in going through a process. If you have high intent or decent intent, or you have a sum of money that you want to invest somewhere, think about what we really want. What are the pros and cons? Because there is pros and cons. There's, you know, advantages and disadvantages to taking a franchise. Yeah.
So we've just had a question. So on average, how much does it cost to create the franchise side of the business, or the legal side of things, and the stuff that we've mentioned?
Yeah. It would really depend on the type of business it would be. I could quote you some figures, everything up to 8,000 up to 60,000 pounds, to get a franchisor into business. Now, if it's a franchisee, there will be a capital expenditure breakdown in the franchise disclosure documents, the business that you'll look at. There should be, so there'll be a breakdown and notes of what you need. If it's a franchise or business and you're creating it yourself, then you know, in reality, you probably need to set aside a decent amount of money for the development. You need to set some money aside for the recruitment elements. And you need to set some money aside to market your business. It's not unusual to, like anything, you would need a set of money to be able to promote the business to market. And it's not unusual that a franchise recruitment can cost one franchise anything between £3,000 and £5,000 to recruit a single franchisee in relation to marketing spend. That's not unusual.
Cool. Okay, so let's completely flip this on its head. We're going from people like me, like Cal, who's had his own place as well, gym owners, boot camp owners doing really well, and they want to set up their own franchise. Let's flip it then. So I'm working out of somebody else's gym. I've got a very small boot camp going. I've just qualified as a PT, and basically I want to collapse time. I don't want to have to do like I've done, started in 2012 and now we're in 2021. I want to be able to collapse that amount of time and make it in like just a year. Is it okay if I just go out and ask somebody who has a franchise, please tell me more?
100%. Yeah, 100%. That's the right thing. Is investigate, speak to current franchisees, speak to the owners of the business, understand those elements, and you can totally reduce that down. So there's loads of different testimonials out there that you can pick up, or we can introduce you to, of, you know, success stories of why you can do exactly that, and shorten the period of time. That'll be absolutely fine.
So let's say then I've found this business. I don't know how I found it. Maybe it was on Facebook or Google search or something, and they're offering franchise opportunities out. But then I see another one, maybe in the town down the road, and they both look kind of similar. They're both saying the same kind of spiel. how do I know like this one is actually proper genuine and I'm going to succeed, and this one's absolutely terrible and I'm going to put my massive money in and I'm actually going to like just fall on my face? How can I work out if it's going to work for me or not?
Okay, yeah, good question. That's doing your due diligence. So that's asking to see some of the systems and processes that they have in place, get them to show them to you, get them to introduce you to some of their franchisees if they have them. If they don't have any, then suppliers. Speak to all the owners of the business. It's normally evidential. It is. So, for example, seeing the financial figures for asking those difficult conversations, turning up at an event if there's an event there that they do or run, looking at the pilot, speaking to the person that's done the pilot. All of this should be in your due diligence that you should do. Also, looking online, have a look online. What kind of reviews they've had? When you type in Google in that area, is the market, are they coming up number one, number two in Google? If not, they do paid adverts. They are doing paid adverts. What kind of long tail keywords and using? What kind of, who's doing that for them? It is absolutely fine to ask these questions, and that's probably what I'm trying to get across. There's not really a stupid question that you shouldn't ask them. And what I mean by that, there isn't you can't ask the stupid question. It doesn't matter as long as you get the answer that you feel comfortable with. A big part is relationships, so don't forget that. While you do your due diligence, you got to feel that one, that you get on with the person, you think two, you can work with them. I think that's really key to a successful business relationship. We work very much on that basis with Rise. We do. It has to be the right kind of profile for each other to be able to make that work too. We're going to be more successful and you can work together in the right way. Hopefully that answers that question.
No, that's good. So let's look at it then. I want to collapse time. I've done some Googling and I can't really see anything. Where do I go and find franchisee? Where do I find people who are willing to give me an opportunity to purchase part of their business?
Yeah. So there's franchise directories. There's loads of different types of franchise directories. So there's franchise local, franchise point, there's franchise supermarket, there's franchise direct, there's franchise the British Franchise Association. That's 5 just to start with. There's franchise my business. There's Rise Fitness franchise, which is a specific one. And those are franchise platforms. Typically, they are. If you go to those franchise platforms, they'll be broken down by industry. Be broken down by how much money you have. They'll be broken down by your interests. Easily be 100, even up to 250 types. There's also magazines out there, like What Franchise magazine or Which Franchise. There's lots of blogs and articles in relation to those. So there's a few different platforms that you can kind of look at that will help generate interest that you can kind of compare. There's normally a decent bio, and what I mean by bio, good explanation of should be fairly detailed explanation about the business and give you an idea of franchise fee, maybe capital, your minimum cash required to kind of get into business. So some key headline facts should be stipulated on those platforms.
Nice, yeah. So basically, if you want to collapse time and find a franchise, it should be relatively easy to find a franchise by just doing some quick searches, really.
What might be worth at this point as well as the barrier to entry, because there's a wide spectrum of upfront costs that are associated with various different fitness franchises. And James, again, speak a bit more detail on this, but from the high end, bricks and mortar facility where you might be thinking it might be 150 grand to get started, they do go as low as, James.
Yeah, so it might be 150 grand, but you might be able to get into business for as £10,000 or even lower, depending on type of business that you're looking to do. Your initial investment, and should be based on what you've obviously financially can afford, but also some franchises will do payment terms. They will, based on what you believe your getting into business cost will be. Most banks will support if you have a strong covenant. And what I mean by covenant would be if you have a good background in, but you shouldn't be restricted either by that. But you might be a homeowner. If you're not a homeowner, that's not a problem. Then there is schemes. There is government schemes. If you go to the government website and ask about the government schemes, you can borrow £25,000. That's protected by the government in relation to repayments. So there is schemes out there that would help franchisees looking. Just go to gov.uk. They should be able to, if you just type in funding schemes. There is quite a lot available at the moment, especially after COVID, in getting into business, and franchising is very high on their agenda because you get the support. You get the support structure. You might be unemployed or are unemployed, or you're a trainer that you're looking to take your next step. You're a successful PT, and you want to scale your business, but guess what? You can't scale as time. So businesses like Rise or will give the ability to scale up and how to work maybe as a head coach and a PTs underneath you, or some trainers to be able to scale into not 1, 3, 5 territories. So you can start living a little bit differently, and you kind of put yourself in a more of a head coach position. You can. So there is ways and means to be able to do that. Everybody's it's always going to be slightly different based on their own financial means, but there needs to be a minimum level. And what franchisors try and do is provide that information at the front end. Then, as your relationship develops, you probably take you about between 6 and 3 months to do your due diligence process in the right way. That's normal amount of time it would take before you decide to buy a franchise.
Cool. Okay. Another question, because the people that usually watch our gym owners or people doing well already, is with regards to franchising, would you say we need a second location or multiple locations before we can franchise, or can we just run with just one?
Okay, so you can run with just one. You can, but I would normally have it in your business plan that you are looking to scale up to do multiples, if possible. There is ways and means. There is, so one location is okay, but have to be profitable, and have to be profitable for a decent period of time. It would do, I'd say, normally 3 years. Okay, have a good set of accounts. So that's fine. Then you may have some early adopter franchises that franchisees that you may wish to take on. So the structure might be slightly different to bring those guys on board, how to move into multiple sites. You can do it in one. That is absolutely fine, but it's all about proof of concept to a point. Concept's got to be proved, and you should have gone kind of through that process, or have got a clear indicator of how you're going to get through that process over a period of time. The more you can do, if you have multiple sites, it's going to help a franchisee feel more confident in buying into a business, because you've done it not once but a couple of times. But it's not essential. It's not essential as long as you've got the structure in place. I would suggest, though, it's very important that there's points of differences between what you're trying to do and what the market might be like. So myself and Cole talk about having clear points of difference to make sure you stand out, don't we, Cole? We talk about what those USPs are sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's actually that you mentioned earlier, David, isn't it? When you go into town and see, two very very similar sort of franchise models, what makes either one of them stand out, so that you're going to make the decision to choose one or the other. So it's important that you spend time differentiating your product from what else is out there, to add not just add value to what you do, but to increase the value proposition. So
Cool. Okay, so let's look at it from collapsing time again, from our point of view again. If we're one location strong for now, for example, maybe we start the process of learning the franchise, maybe working with someone like you guys to get things moving while also opening the second location to have that proof of concept. So by the time your whole package and everything is built, you already have 2, 3, 4 locations ready to show.
Yeah, look, that would be a sensible approach to going through franchising for sure. It definitely would. You would probably want your franchisees to do multiple, right? That's the reality of it. You probably want them to reinvest again and again and again.
Mm.
So almost the model that you're going to go through. So if you're going to do one free, three sites, you want your franchisee that's going to invest. Well, why shouldn't you take he or she to the same volume that you are, with your guidance? That to me makes common sense. That some franchisees just do one site, which is fine, but in reality, there will be multi-type franchise types, or more likely do multiples. And it's not unusual to have franchisees to own 10, 15, one brand, and in franchising over a period of time, the market consolidates because franchisees buy franchisees out as the business starts consolidating overall. So
Yeah.
that's not to see that either.
So in other words, the main franchise person, let's say me, I can't take somebody on who then opens 5 gyms and I'm still stuck with one.
No, you can. You can do that. You can do that for sure. But you need to think about a balance of what would be like in your business. So when I launched uh, uh, Anytime Fitness into the UK with that board at that time, we only started with one corporate store, but it had been proven in other countries at that point. So there was a good set of experience at the time. But energy fitness out there, for example, it's the two main ones in the UK. There's Snap and there's Jets, and there's loads of different types out there, right or wrongly. You just need to what's kind of comfortable for you. Those some of the mainstream, but you probably got a business already. So if you've got a business already, and what the market, how we've seen the market is there's a huge amount of appetite for franchising now. The market's changed, and it's been born out of last recession. We saw a spike in franchising. We're probably going to see that again because we'll come out of COVID or coming out of COVID. Normally get a huge interest in looking to do multiple things, and that maybe do something like a Rise franchise, gives them flexibility, which is fairly low cost, and you can scale that, as well as having doing something else in your life at the same time. So maybe doing not one thing, but two different things.
Cool. Okay, so to finish then, have you got any final points for somebody on my side or somebody coming in and getting started on franchising or buying a franchise?
So, sorry, just repeat that first bit.
Yeah, so just final points and tips and advice really on maybe me, franchising Canine Fitness, or
Yeah.
me just qualified as a PT and think I want to collapse time and purchase a franchise.
Okay, I'll do the franchise bit. Cole, you can do the PT bit there. So look, my advice is, do your due diligence. Ensure that you go through, get the information that you need about the business. Speak to any of their clients that you do, and ask for financials. And look at the systems, and go and turn up at one of their sites with their permission, of course. Doing that kind of due diligence is really useful. And also look at online, you're looking at reviews, you're looking at how the business performed, how hot are they on their Facebook channel, do they reply to comments or not? All these things give you an idea of a balanced view. Let's be
Yeah.
honest, no business is going to be 100% perfect. So it's be a balance. What's good about it? One might be new and it's growing. And also, last thing I'd say is that relationship. You need to make sure the relationship's good between the franchisor and you, the franchisee. and you believe it's a relationship that can last the obligations in the franchise agreement. Carl, what about from a PT perspective?
I was just thinking that you made a great point, but from a PT perspective, when you finish your qualification, it might be almost instinct to straight away think that the only option for me is to go and pay rent in a commercial gym. But I think that for all the negatives that COVID's brought us, it certainly brought us another way of thinking as well. That there are different business models for personal training, and there are certainly more business models available to you than literally just working in the commercial gym. And that's not me saying that's a bad thing to do, but there are other business models that allow you more time, more flexibility, and the online PT model has had its field day effectively throughout COVID. But there's also other business models to explore. And obviously we're here to talk a little bit about Rise as well. And our Rise outdoor fitness model presents another business model for trainers to consider. That it's almost a hybrid, if you will. It's a hybrid between online and face-to-face training, but it's a group PT product that gives the trainer the time back, I suppose. Trading time for money is something that we're all familiar with in the personal training world. And you cap your earnings, don't you? With as soon as you get to a point where you've sold all your time, that's your capacity. So other business models, and Rise is one of them, give you that opportunity to spend less time on the servicing, so to speak, and more time on the other side of the business that will ultimately help you to generate an effectively an uncapped income when you start to think about expanding and scaling up into various different territories. So one to look out for. So I just think it's worth spending time exploring all the different models that are available to you before you, I suppose, jump into one and almost get a bit stuck there because you find that you almost get too busy to explore.
Yeah. Carl, James, I appreciate you for coming on. For anybody that is watching, and you can see there's already people asking about franchise and all this type of stuff, where can they find a little bit more about what you both do, or what is it you both actually do?
Yeah. So for Rise, I'll just go to risefranchise.co.uk. .org, risefranchise.org, and you'll find out about the Rise franchise. If it's outside of that, of course, you can go to franchisemybusiness.co.uk as well as outside of the Rise elements. Okay.
And you're both on Facebook or LinkedIn or something as well, I'm guessing.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, on LinkedIn, it's just James Cotton on LinkedIn. You'll be able to find me, and Carl as well, or on Facebook. Hopefully you can find me as well.
Appreciate your time, guys. Thanks for coming on. And anybody that's watching, if you are thinking, go for it. If not, think about it further in the future. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
David, thank you, guys.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Okay, so that was James Cotton and Carl Smith giving us their experience in setting up one of the biggest UK gym franchises, giving us insights how to do it for our own fitness business, and if you're looking to potentially buy into a franchise, what to look for and how to do it yourself. So it was one of those interviews where, again, I keep saying this every Monday, you probably want to go back, read over it again or watch over it again, start taking notes and really getting a lot more information on the stuff that they are sharing. Anyway, a lot more stuff coming up this week, but for now, I'm going to leave it there. I'll speak to you all tomorrow. Cheers.